At the North Pole, things can be really cold, especially when you're different.
Father, all of the other reindeer make fun of me. They won't let me join in the reindeer games.
I tell you, you're just like me, son. You got no respect at all.
Ooh, when he couldn't take it anymore, Rudolph snapped.
Now they'll pay. Now they will all pay.
Arnold Schwarzenegger leads an all-star cast in He Had a Red Nose. Co-starring Rodney Dangerfield as Rudolph's father and Pee Wee Herman as Rudolph's cross-dressing friend Prancer.
I know your pain. I know what it's like to be a little different.
That's why I pierced my antlers.
With a special appearance by Jack Nicholson as Santa.
I want to guide your sleigh tonight, old man. I don't give a damn what you think you are entitled to.
He had a red nose the day Rudolph got even. A 2-hour television event tonight at 9 on NBC.
Still holds up. That one still holds up. I created that comedy sketch probably about 20 years ago, back in the early 2000s. Why, in my day. Welcome again to Mark Moseley Show, now in living color. Catch the show on YouTube, on Spotify, on iHeart, on Apple Podcasts, on Spreaker. By the way, speaking of Spreaker, this portion of the show is brought to you by Irish Spring and Lucky Charms. That's an inside joke because the folks at Spreaker, that's the platform where I post the show every week, and then it scatters out to all the other platforms, and Spreaker inserts the commercials that you'll hear in those other audio versions on whatever platform you're listening to it on. And for some reason, Spreaker thinks my audience is in Ireland because they're constantly putting in ads for like Irish products and services. So yes, I love Lucky Charms and Irish Spring, the only two Irish themed products that I could think of. Perhaps I should start doing my show with an Irish accent. Would that be good? Sure it would. Well, it's the first week in December, and everything is beginning to look a lot like... It's beginning to look a lot like a pretty good fourth quarter everywhere you go. Black Friday sales totaled $11.2 billion, up 4.1% from last year. Cyber Monday sales shattered records once again, with U.S. online sales reaching $14.25 billion, a 7.1% increase from the $13.3 billion recorded in 2024, making it the largest single-day e-commerce event in history. And speaking of being back, baby, Melania Trump, who, I'm telling you, man, she's just a classy lady. She decorated the White House in such a beautiful way that, of course, the left is losing their minds and dusting off the old Melania said, "Who gives a bleep about Christmas" bit. They'll tell us all day long that Trump and the Republicans are terrible people and a threat to our freedoms and democracy. And yet, time and time again, they get caught lying about the president, about Republicans, to smear them and make them look bad. It's almost like they're incapable of telling the truth. And they're doing it again, this time with First Lady Melania Trump, and taking a quote that she said during Trump's first term wildly out of context to make FLOTUS look like she's some kind of a Grinch. On December 1st, the Democrats on their X account tweeted out the meme about how Melania supposedly said, "Who gives a bleep about Christmas?" The actual quote now, because I have to remind you again, she said, quote, "They say I'm complicit. I'm the same like him. I support him. I don't say enough. I don't do enough." This she told to an aide named Wilkoff, I can't remember the gentleman's first name, who was secretly recording the phone call and would later release it to the media to try to embarrass the First Lady. Continuing with her quote, "I'm working my bleep off on the Christmas stuff, you know. Who gives a bleep about the Christmas stuff and decorations? But I need to do it, right? Correct?" Now, the context in which she was saying this is that she thought that, you know, like, what's the big deal about decorating the White House? Why is this a tradition that's fallen on the First Lady with everything else that's going on in the world? That was going on, you know, because there's always other stuff going on in the world that are way more significant, way more important, and even probably things the First Lady could be doing that are more less self-serving and self-aggrandizing. Because, I mean, let's face it, that's what decorating the White House is. It's like this big flex that the First Lady gets to do. And it's like, oh, look how beautiful it is. And meanwhile, there are probably things that the First Lady could be doing that are more significant. Like if she has a big charity that she's involved with, working with the kids, doing something that's more impactful in the world. And of course, that is the context in which she said that. Posts often label her new decorations of the White House as being performative, contrasting it with last year's Jill Biden, which was more inclusive. I think with Melania, the big criticism is, well, your Christmas decorations are only Christmassy. Where's the menorahs? Where's the where's the other stuff? Because there are other holidays this time of the year that coincide with Christmas time. So there were no menorahs this year, no diversity nods, and no other religious traditions in sight. And that contrasts, according to the left, pretty significantly with Jill Biden's inclusivity. And of course, X is quick to point out how opulent it all looks, and the usual cries of look at all the money that we spend when people can't get food and the children are dying and blood is gushing from the walls. And of course, the reality is this, by the way, if you break down the numbers, if you research the numbers, Melania Trump this year spent between $450,000 and $600,000 estimate. Jill Biden last year spent an estimated between $650,000 and $800,000. And she even brought in this luxury event planner, Brian Raffanelli. She brought him in and he decorated, and that contributed to the higher cost last year. But yes, last year, Jill Biden spent almost $1 million. And look, I've never been a big fan of spending huge sums of taxpayer money on decorating the White House. Why can't they do what the rest of us do? You know, you get some ornaments at Target, you go get a tree at Sam's Club, and every year you drag that thing out of the garage or the attic, you throw the same ornaments on it, and it looks the same every year, and it's fine. The Mosleys have an artificial tree that we bought like 23 years ago. And every year that thing comes out and we screw it together and we plug it in and we hold our breath. Is it going to work one more year? And yes, it still works. It still works. It fires up every time and we always celebrate. I think because it's an older tree and it was made before 2000, it was probably made in America. It was made in America, so it's better. There's none of that Chinese crap. It was made in America. See, the older stuff does hold up better, though. I mean, not to get on a tangent here, but if you buy a house that has an older air conditioning system in it, pro tip, keep fixing it. Don't replace it. I know some air conditioning guys that are real pros that told me that because I'm living in a house with a 25-year-old AC system. They're like, no, don't replace it. The new stuff is junk. Keep fixing it. Maybe they just want the work. I don't know. But anyway, so I got this old tree, and the thing still works. Why can't they just do that at the White House? Just stuff everything in the attic, pull it out, put it up, and be done with it. But no, it has to be this big production every year. But they hate Melania Trump. Maybe because she wasn't made in America. I don't know. They love immigrants except for her. Maybe you saw this. The publisher of Vanity Fair is toying with the idea of putting her on the magazine cover. And of course, the left just loses their minds over the very idea that he would even think about this. It's not going to happen. He backed off. A bunch of people at the magazine threatened to walk because they see it as normalizing the Trump administration. So ultimately, Melania said, you know what? I'm good. Don't worry about it. And she kind of laughed the whole thing off. But what a bunch of Grinches. Aren't they Grinches, Mr. President? Well, yes, they absolutely are Grinches. The entire left. In fact, we're here we've got something very special for you. We've got a poem that I wrote about the Grinches. Can we have some Christmassy music under this for Mr. President? Thank you. That's perfect. Here we go. Every dim down in Blueville liked government a lot. And the Grinches in Blueville, they did not like Christmas, not one tiny jot. The Grinches hated Christmas the whole Christmas season. Now, please don't ask why. They're not big on logic and reason. It could be the crosses that trigger their sights. It could be the carols that hurt their equal rights. It could be Merry Christmas sounds way too exclusive. Or maybe the colors red and green are too aggressive. But I think the reason, most likely of all, are their hearts are 2 sizes too small for God bless us all. The next day they knew all the normies and bros would wake up bright and early and post Merry Christmas in droves. Then the moms and dads and kids would sit down to a feast of ham and turkey and not plant-based alternative beast. And they'd feast and they'd feast and they'd feast, feast, feast. And they'd say grace and not give a trigger warning at least. And then they'd do something the Grinches like least of all. Every MAGA, red or blue, the tall and the small, gather in churches or town square malls, hold hands unmasked, and sing Christmas carols. And they'd sing and they'd sing and they'd sing, sing, sing. Tomorrow is Christmas, it's practically here. Then they hissed and they hissed and they said with a sneer, we'll stop Christmas from coming. We'll find a liberal judge who'll rule no red hats, no roast beef, no white divinity fudge. And they called the DOJ, the FBI too, the media, the unions, some NGOs that they knew. They printed up mandates and rules by the score, banned coal, banned gas stoves, banned Merry Christmas in stores. They canceled the pipeline, they canceled the wall, they canceled the pipeline again just for gall. But what happened then? Well, in Swampville they say that the dim small hearts shrank 3 sizes that day. They tried one last rule, banned singing in key, but the who's just got louder. You can't cancel me. So Christmas came, it came just the same. And the Dems with their dem hearts cold as the snow sat puzzling and puzzling, how could it be so? It came without mandates, it came without woe, it came without czars. It came without checks, it came without Kamala's word salad train wrecks. They puzzled 3 hours till their puzzlers were sore. Maybe the Dems, and then the Dems thought of something they hadn't before. Maybe Christmas, they thought, doesn't come from D.C. Maybe Christmas perhaps means something more than me. But they never admitted it, not once, not a peep. They just raised the debt ceiling and went back to sleep. While down in MAGAville, MAGA kept singing with cheers. Merry Christmas to all, and let's do 4 more years. Oh, you're back. Welcome back to Mark Moseley Show. Don't forget to follow me on all social media platforms at Mark Moseley, Moseley. The spelling is right there on the screen, so you don't misspell it. I'm on X. I'm on TikTok. I'm not on. I always go to say I'm on TikTok because everyone's on TikTok, but I'm not on TikTok. We are not on TikTok. The president's on TikTok, but we are not. I am not on TikTok, and that was a deliberate choice because I don't need to learn how to ghost ride my car. Drug boats are the this week's Let's Get Trump scheme. I really think that the drug boats soon we'll be making another run. I don't know why I'm singing so much today. The drug boats. Oh, look, we blew up another one. The left are on the side of men pretending to be women, giving women concussions in sports. They're on the side of letting criminals from other countries hide in major cities, preventing local police from being able to cooperate with the feds to get those people off the streets to bring down crime. They're on the side of open borders that encourage the flow of fentanyl and child sex trafficking. They're on the side of Hamas in the war where at least one Jewish baby was placed in an oven and burned alive, where they cut off people's heads and film themselves playing with severed heads. And now they're on the side of the narco-terrorists who are also big fans of beheadings and flaying people alive and all kinds of subhuman atrocities. It's getting dark in here. Well, hey, Mark, why don't you tell some more jokes, buddy? Why don't you bring that poem back? Make us laugh some more. Do some more funny voices. You're getting kind of heavy on the show.
Too far! God!
The left's argument on this drug boat thing is that these strikes are bypassing Congress's authority to declare war or authorize military action per the War Powers Resolution. I think overall the left views this as another example of Trump's overreach, exceeding his executive branch authority, some kind of vigilantism that endangers lives. Meanwhile, in the past, Obama inherited a small Bush-era drone program, but scaled it dramatically, authorizing over 540 strikes, primarily in Pakistan, Yemen, Somalia, and later Afghan and Syria. Those were using CIA and JSOC assets, killing 2,200 to 3,500 people, including between 400 and 900 civilians per the Bureau of Investigative Journalism estimates. And of course, the rationale then was precision counterterrorism against Al-Qaeda, ISIS, often without having a capture option. So that's one of the big arguments that the left is making. Well, couldn't you just take these people into custody? And then back in the 90s, of course, on August 20th, 1998, amid the Lewinsky scandal and Al-Qaeda's embassy bombings in Kenya, Tanzania, Bill Clinton launched Operation Infinite Reach. 75 Tomahawk missiles hit targets in Afghanistan and Sudan. The Sudanese strike devastated a pharmaceutical plant. Remember, everybody called it an aspirin factory. U.S. intel claimed it was a chemical weapons site linked to bin Laden. And soil samples showed a VX nerve agent precursor. So there was some justification for that there. But again, sketchy. I mean, look, I think you can put this on par. You can put what Trump is doing with these drug boats on par with what Obama and Clinton did without being accused of whataboutism. Whataboutism, Mark. But now, see, Trump is doing it. And look, would I love to get bogged down in a whole bunch of very long, protracted, deliberately strung out criminal trials, appeals, convictions thrown out by liberal judges because of some technicality with some of these drug runners? Absolutely, would that be more fair? Yes, let them exploit our legal system. Let our enemies use our own rules against us. But these are very, very bad men. Very bad men. And I'm sorry, fishermen do not have technologically advanced speedboats that can outrun almost anything that the U.S. Navy can put in the water. So I'm not buying that poor fisherman bit. And besides that, you know, there's something else at work here, and that is that the left can't seem to make up its mind whether or not they believe that there's true evil in the world. They think that demons don't operate through these kinds of people, and that we shouldn't blow up these people because they're fathers. And you know who else was a dad? Joseph Stalin had kids. He was somebody's daddy. See, people on the left, they don't think that there's evil in the world. Unless you're a Republican, unless you're Trump, then sure, they believe in evil. Look, I would much prefer that we find out who these guys are, build a time machine, go back, and pay their mothers to abort them. Because then the left wouldn't mind, because they're not a viable human life. What? Is that too snarky for you? Too far, huh?
Too far! God!
But these same people over at X, poring over photos of Donald Trump looking tired, cheering for his demise. You want Trump to die, so you clearly do believe that some people are evil. So you really don't believe your own talking points. Remember last week when the seditious six were called out by Trump, and he claimed that, they were committing sedition, which he claimed erroneously was punishable by death. The left claimed that Trump was calling for them to be murdered, and they got all foamy-mouthed about how Trump was calling for members of Congress to be put to death. Well, again, he was wrong because sedition isn't generally punishable by death. So, but using your rules of speech, anyone who ever called Trump a traitor who has committed treason, was therefore calling for Trump to be put to death or murdered, to use your words. And that list includes Al Green, Ted Lieu, Maxine Waters, who have all called Trump a person that committed treason. So, again, hypocrisy on parade with the left. And we've all seen posts on X or TikTok or Facebook calling Trump pure evil and that he should die. And I know what the latest argument is, that no one gets an elective MRI, referring to the big MRI controversy, and Trump won't release his MRI, and that means that there's something nasty in it. And then they did release the MRI, and so then the pivot point was, well, no one gets an elective MRI. Why was Trump getting an MRI in the first? You couldn't wait for the MRI results to show that he was dying. And this was all over social media this week, posted by people, some of whom probably can't even spell MRI, Patrick, how do you spell MRI? A-M-A-R-E-Y-E. MRI. Sure. Be right back with the X-Files after these important messages directly from Ireland. Welcome back to Mark Moseley Show, and it's time for the X-Files.
Much as you try to bury it, the truth is out there.
Yes, the truth is out there, but not on X. Not often enough. It's very rarely do you find truth on X. So here we go. This is a bunch of videos that I found on X. We'll take a look at them, and I'll tell you what I think about them. First up, this woman is very upset that Trump is sending money to Argentina.
I woke up watching news and finding out we are going to give Argentina a $20 billion bailout while we can't even have health care in this country, and we're falling apart. And our beautiful fucking orange wannabe god seems to think he needs a Nobel Peace Prize, which I don't understand, because he's tearing our country apart. I'm really not crazy. I really never knew this. I am 60 years old, and for the first time in my life, I am scared to death to live in this country. I want to take my family and leave. I can't afford passports, imagine. But anyway, please, if you agree with me, call your senators, protest, do whatever you can. But I don't understand why we are giving another country $20 billion when so many people are on the verge of losing health care, so many rural hospitals are on the verge of closing. When this ACA or whatever they want to call it, Obamacare, ends, everybody's premiums are shooting up. Not just the poor people you think are on Obamacare, but everybody's, because the whole system's going to have to absorb this. The system's going to have to absorb people that can't afford it and have to go to the emergency room for treatment, and that's all they can get. So we're going to let our people just lay here and die because they can't get health care, but we're going to bail out other countries?
I agree. We should just cut off all foreign aid to all countries and just let the chips fall where they may. I'm in that Rand Paul camp. Not really, but I mean, let's let China take over and spread socialism into Argentina. We see how well that's worked out in other countries in South America, particularly Venezuela. Now, look, I know $20 billion, that's a lot of money to be sending to Argentina. But in 2025, fiscal year 2025, the United States government has spent $16 billion in foreign aid on Ukraine. $2 billion went to Ethiopia, 1.2 to Jordan, and so on and so on. If we could cut off all that money and instead spend the money continuing to prop up a broken Affordable Care Act that just doesn't work, didn't do what it was supposed to do. It was supposed to make everybody's health care costs go down. Quite the opposite. If you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor's number on your phone under favorites. He's not going to pick up, though, because he's not your doctor no more. Why did that sound more like Walter Cronkite than Barack Obama? Now, hold on a second. Hold on a second now. Your Obama impression, it's slipping a little bit into Walter Cronkite. I don't know what happened there. I just glitched out for a second. But this woman is making the false choice argument. So this is called the false dilemma fallacy. We either send money to Argentina or we don't send it to Argentina, and then it's available to give to big health, not to customers, by the way, which is what Trump is proposing. Like, let's figure out a system where people can get a subsidy from the government directly, and then they can use that to shop options for health care, as opposed to taking $20 billion, pouring it back into the Obamacare system, give it directly to big health, which the left used to hate in this country, but now they love them. They love big pharma and they love big health. Two entities in society that the left used to hate, but Trump broke you. So now send that money to big health so that they can put that money in their pockets and artificially keep your premiums lower. For example, United Health Group CEO Stephen J. Hemsley has seen his net worth grow in just 5 years from estimated range of 200 to 250 million in 2020. He's now worth somewhere between 340 and 371 million in 5 years, a growth of 40%. But yes, let's take the Argentina money and give it to them instead. Up next on the X-Files, comparing illegal aliens to our convicted felon president. Take a look.
Folks, those immigrants never bothered you. They never ate the cats and dogs, and they've never made your life more difficult. In fact, if they've done anything, they've made your life better. And please don't talk to me about abiding by the law. You see, you're not allowed to do that. That right got revoked when you voted in a 34-time convicted felon who tried to burn our Capitol down. And pardon the people that did it. You see, we can't live in a country where the punishment for a girl that got here when she was 4 years old and has never committed a crime, and this is the only way she knows right here, her punishment cannot be more harsh than the punishment for trying to burn our Capitol down, or being a 34-time convicted felon, or being found guilty of sexual abuse.
Okay, so from the jump, this guy goes directly to the lumping all immigrants into one bucket, which I'm sure those who come here legally do it all correctly, really appreciate being lumped in with people who do come here illegally. I mean, the process of coming here legally is tough. It involves a lot of paperwork, a lot of patience. You got to hire lawyers. There's a lot of money involved. And the left really doesn't ever like to draw a distinction between legal and illegal immigrants when they're making their arguments. And this reminds me, a friend of mine made a great analogy when he was talking about the topic of crimes committed by illegals versus crimes committed by citizens, because people on the left love to claim that illegals commit crimes at a lower rate than citizens. If you set aside the fact that coming here illegally was already a crime, you have to set that aside in order for this argument to work. So illegals supposedly commit crimes at a lower rate than citizens do. Never mind that they're actually committing crimes at a rate of 100%. So his analogy is, imagine that your son clogs your toilet and it overflows and it floods the bathroom. You're going to be upset at your son. You're going to be mad about the mess and the expense involved. Now, imagine a burglar breaks into your house and while they're there uses that same toilet and clogs it and overflows it. You're rightly going to be more upset at that same situation because that person wasn't supposed to be in your house to begin with. Anyway, this guy's main point that he seems to be making here is you can't oppose illegal immigration because our president is a criminal. And when he became a criminal, somehow that right went away, which is absurd. But allowing your premise, how many of those people broke the law and came here before Donald Trump became a convicted felon? Millions of people came here illegally before we voted for the convicted felon. So which came first? And as of December 3rd, the taping of this podcast, the felony does remain on Trump's record, but he got an unconditional discharge from the state of New York, which means no jail time, no fines, nothing. It's like an unconditional discharge is like the courts in New York going, never mind. We spent a whole bunch of taxpayer money and never mind. So, and this guy in the video says that Trump tried to burn our Capitol down. When did that happen? I don't remember any fires being set on January 6th. But let's throw that onto the pile of things that we're exaggerating about. And then he pardoned the people who tried to burn the Capitol down, even though no one tried to burn the Capitol down. And so because Trump walks free, because he's not in prison, then that means that no laws can be enforced. So you're advocating for anarchy. And again, you're standing for the exploitation of illegal workers who make less money. They make less than the living wage that we all want everyone to have. They have almost zero protections against the companies that employ them. So you are for a less than human class of people walking around so that when you go to Albertsons to buy some strawberries, they cost a little bit less than they otherwise would if the person picking them was here legally. So that's you pretending to be a caring person. That's you cosplaying, but you're really... You're not being a genuine person. You're kind of a phony. You don't understand the true human suffering that you are actively supporting and advocating for. Come here legally, and the legal protections that American society affords you are yours to access. Come here illegally, and you don't get all of those advantages. And yeah, you have a class of people here that are less than because of that. And that's not American. At the end of the day, we're all supposed to be equal. But you're supporting a system that creates a class of less than. Up next, here's a woman who, like many on the left, have made the leap to Donald Trump is a convicted pedophile.
Just a reminder, if you still support Donald Trump after all of this, then you are 1,000% in support of pedophilia and all the sexual assault that happens against children, and you are a bad person. If somebody around you still supports Donald Trump and refuses to admit that they were wrong and that he is a bad person, do not let them around your children at all. If you have children and you still support Donald Trump, you do not think this is a bad thing, you don't think he did it, you should have Child Protective Services call on you, because absolutely not. We all said that this was true, that he was in the files, that he has sexually assaulted women, children, not even women. He has sexually assaulted women, but specifically children, because if you are under the age of 18, you are a child.
Again, because someone said a thing and that thing got reposted, I don't care if it got reposted 10 million times, posting something 10 million times on the internet does not make it an established fact. But this is what people do now. Here's a thing that hasn't been proven, but I'm employing confirmation bias here because I want it to be true. I want it so badly to be true. So now in my mind, it happened, and I'm going to proceed from here now to lecture you about something that hasn't been proven. And we're going to take away your kids. We're going to take away your kids. We could do the same thing with Ashley Biden's diary. If you want us to go there, at the end of the day, isn't there more concrete evidence that it currently exists that Joe Biden is a perv than there is of Donald Trump? And using shaming to try to influence you, you support Trump, and that means you're cool with kids being raped. Ditto. If you supported Biden's open border policies, which led to 300,000, that's 300 Super Bowls worth of missing kids who went missing when they came across the border, and they've only found a fraction of them, some of who are certainly sex trafficked and are being raped on a daily basis. Oh, Mark, you're getting squirmy again. Bring back the Arnold Schwarzenegger impression.
Too far! God!
I know, but you have to talk about these things because that's what you're supporting while trying to shame me for supporting Donald Trump, who has not been found guilty of any of that. And finally, here's a trans person complaining about fairness when fairness is presented as an option.
California just created a third category for trans individuals in regards to sports, which for some reason pisses me off a lot more than just straight up not allowing trans people to compete. Both are bad, but this feels worse. I don't think any of us want a third category because we're not like some weird subsect of people. If I'm a trans woman, I'm a woman. If a man is a trans man, they're a man. It's not that complicated. Making some third category just ostracizes a group of people even more than they already are. This is stupid. This is unbelievably stupid.
But you are a subset of people. Do you want to be treated special or do you not want to be treated special? Please make up your mind. And it is that complicated. You're saying it's not complicated. It's that complicated because you insist on it being that complicated. If you're born a man and you are made to compete against other men, you say that's not fair. If you want to compete against women, we say that's not fair to the women because taking hormones does not change your overall biology, your bone structure, your muscular system. So to make it fair, here's a third way. Here's a third way that's fair for all people, men, women, and trans people. And suddenly your defense is, don't treat me differently? No, that's been your argument all along. That's part of why you identify as trans, because you feel different. Now suddenly that doesn't work. So you just want what you want, and society needs to bend to your will. It reminds me of in Goldmember, when Goldmember goes, so then there is no pleasing you. That's not your mother, that's a man, baby, yeah. Welcome back to Mark Moseley Show. Thanks for supporting this podcast. Thank you for following me on X, on Instagram, on Facebook. Before I get to the good news and the bad news, wanted to squeeze this one in. Bill Gates is, I know you probably heard this story, is bored with climate hysteria. They just had that big global climate conference, which kind of turned into a real dud. But in late October, right before his 70th birthday, and before the COP30 climate conference, Gates published a lengthy memo on his Gates Note blog with something along the lines of a strategic pivot on climate, where he now is directly critiquing what he calls the doomsday view or the hysteria around climate change. And this is only 4 years after his book, How to Avoid a Climate Disaster, where he was all in on aggressive emissions cuts. Now he seems to be arguing that the panic-driven focus is misplaced and counterproductive. And I say all that to tee up because I think it's time for a comedy classic sketch on this show. It's time for another Al Gore Global Warming Minute.
And now, a global warming minute with Al Gore.
I'm Al Gore, and you are causing global warming with your gas. Did you know that flatulence is mostly carbon dioxide? Did you ever wonder why I'm bloated and have a pained expression all the time? It's because I'm desperately trying to hold it in to save the earth, while you go about willy-nilly sputtering like a motorboat and melting the ice caps. Keep tooting, and pretty soon when someone asks, "Who died in here?" the answer will be, all of us. Remember, every time you crack one off, the ice shelf in Antarctica is cracking off too, and polar bears, harp seals, and caribou perish. So hold in your gas like Al Gore does, and you can save our animal friends from a certain... Oh, dadgummit. I just killed a baby seal.
This has been a Global Warming Minute with Al Gore.
All right, it's the end of the show, and we always give you some good news and then a doofus of the week. And I'm going to flip it this time. First, the doofus, because the good news story is just so heartwarming. I couldn't tell it and then bring you down. So first up, the doofus. In the dusty outskirts of Euless, Texas, a local shoplifter named Ricky the Shadow Malone, yes, he gave himself a nickname. Ricky the Shadow Malone thought he had the perfect plan. He was a career petty thief, stealing candy bars and the occasional magazine. But this time, he was going big, robbing the corner convenience store for some cash, some smokes, and maybe a lottery ticket to fund his next big score. So under the cover of a moonless night, Ricky slipped in like a ninja, grabbed a fistful of 20s from the register, stuffed them into his pockets, and bolted out the back door. Heart pounding, he dashed 2 blocks home, high-fiving the air as he imagined his riches. "I'm untouchable," he crowed to his empty apartment, cracking open a stolen beer. And here's where Ricky's genius as a criminal truly shines. In his haste, he'd left his beat-up leather wallet right there on the counter of the convenience store, right next to the security camera. Inside, his driver's license, complete with a photo of himself grinning like he'd just pulled off a convenience store robbery, plus his full address, and even a crumpled receipt from the very same store dated earlier that day. Perfect. Come dawn, Detective Marco Valadares arrived on the scene. Couldn't help but chuckle as he flipped open the wallet. "Well, folks," he said to his partner, "looks like Santa came early." But instead of going to the apartment and just arresting Ricky, he thought he'd make Ricky come to him. He posted a note on the store's bulletin board. The note says, "Lost, 1 wallet, found at police headquarters. Come claim it at Lost and Found. Ask for Detective Valadares." Ricky, being the doofus, spotted the note on his way to grab a morning Slurpee and took off to the police station. He busted through the doors, he flashed his best innocent smile, and he said, "Hey, that wallet that was found at the convenience store, that's mine, and I've got the ID to prove it." Officer Valadares said, "Oh, sure, step right this way, Mr. Malone. Step into my office, and welcome to booking." As the cuffs clicked on his wrists, Ricky's face fell. He said, "Wait a minute, you mean you don't have a Lost and Found?" "No, we don't." And now for some good news. I love this story. A heartwarming holiday surprise. In a quiet neighborhood in suburban Ohio, 7-year-old Ellie Thompson has been diagnosed with terminal brain cancer earlier this year, leaving her family heartbroken as doctors estimated she has probably weeks to live. Facing what will likely be her final Christmas, Ellie's parents made a simple plea on a local Facebook group. Our girl wants one last magical holiday. If anybody has lights, ornaments, or a tree to spare, it would mean the world. Well, what happened next was nothing short of extraordinary. Within hours, the post was seen, shared, and exploded in popularity. And neighbors didn't just donate, they showed up. One couple hauled over a 10-foot pre-lit tree. A retired teacher baked batches of gingerbread cookies shaped like snowflakes. A group of high school volunteers strung lights across the Thompsons' yard, turning their home into a glowing winter wonderland. By evening, about 50 people had gathered. Firefighters from the local station brought a fire truck parade with sirens, blaring jingle bells. The school choir sang carols on the doorstep of the house, and a bakery delivered a towering cake inscribed with the words, "Ellie's Christmas Forever." Ellie, bundled in a fuzzy elf hat, watched from her window with wide eyes, her frail smile lighting up brighter than the decorations. "It's like the North Pole came here," she whispered to her mom. Neighbors shared stories around a bonfire, passing out hot cocoa and exchanging gifts they'd packed for Ellie. Books about adventurers, a stuffed reindeer that plays Rudolph, and even a personalized letter from Santa promising extra magic next year. The Thompsons say the outpouring restored their faith in humanity. There are really no words to describe how incredible everybody is, Ellie's dad told reporters. In the darkest time, they brought light. As of December 2nd, Ellie's community has started a ripple effect, organizing wish windows for other families in need now. This movement has spread, proving that one small post can spark a season of unstoppable kindness, particularly in a world that is just so increasingly dark and distorted. And that's the show. Until next time, may God bless you with health, joy, and wisdom.